Bien le bonjour, and thanks for joining me in this almost last video related to the Sigmascape about the big bad jester, Kefka. There were two real battles, though it was rather hard to lose in the second, as well as two fake encounters since they were scripted. You could easily tell them apart by looking at the sprites used. As we only fought the Tower of Gods at the end, I'll first cover the skills in FF14 used by Kefka in his human form. Kefka was a really strong black mage in FF6. It's not a surprise that he used the 3 elemental spells associated with this class. In the 14th, he even uses 2 variants, usually an inverted version. Flagrant Fire, which is either an AoE on 4 different players, requiring you to spread out, or an AoE on 1, but it must be shared with your allies. Blizzard Blitz, which is very simple in how it works, either an AoE close to him, or another far from him. Thrumming Thunder is an AoE as well, but in large lines going from east to west or north to south. In Savage, both are combined and turn the arena into a tic-tac-toe grid, or an apple pecan pie. He was also manipulative. He loved lying and deceiving everyone around him. This notable trait has been brought into the 14th through his ability to alter the player's reading of telegraphs. In normal mode for Ice and Thunder, when those are showing question marks, you need to do the opposite, usually standing in them. In Savage, he takes it further by applying this to the fire, but also by reducing the warnings to only his 2 revolving spheres and a buff, the aptly named Jester's Truth or Antics. The latter is the one telling you to do the opposite. Timely Teleport comes from his tendency to flee during the first fake encounter, the first real fight, and especially in the cutscene following the end of the second real battle. And it's in that cutscene that Kefka reveals his ability to change his own appearance. We get that reference through the random spell he used after coming out of teleporting. Revolting Ruin is an AoE covering most of the arena. It might be at first just Kefka expanding his destructive potential to the summoner job. But I think it's actually taken from a cutscene where Kefka obliterated all his allies in Thamasa because he needed some space. What an asshole. Arrow Assault hits and pushes back all players, but Kefka didn't actually have the spell in the 6th. I thought at first that it was Razor Gale from the short arm of the first tier of the tower, but it was just a slightly stronger attack command on one target. However, the rest part on the 3rd tier, that so closely looked like Kefka himself, had the really dangerous Tornado spell. Reminder, this would reduce everyone's current HP by 15/16, enemies and allies included. Being so close to death is even better transcribed with Arrow Assault being able to push you out of the arena. Ultima Upsurge, if you forget that second word, retains exactly the same visuals and effects from one game to another, an AoE hitting all players. In Savage only, there is an even stronger AoE called Light of Judgment, but I'll cover that in the next video. Like Ultima, Hyperdrive was in fact used by the god Kefka in FF6, a very strong attack on one target that left a dot called Sap. It was, rightly so, remade into a tank buster in the Sigmascape, but lost the subsequent dot. As you can see, Kefka doesn't seem to take the fight seriously by adding those stereotypical manga and anime washing tubs, a bit like the second words attached to each of his spells. Mana Charge and Release in Savage don't seem to be a reference to something from the 6th, or it might be a nod to the Warring Triad's ability to absorb and release magic on Kefka's orders. Now, the Tower of Gods. To begin with, it was created by Kefka when he got his godlike powers. There are probably lots of videos or articles talking about what the different parts of the tower actually represent and their meanings, but this won't be the case here, save for the fact that 6 skills in FF14 have will in their name, which proves that it's an extension of Kefka. Wave Cannon. Well, there it is. Kefka snatched it from the Guardian. 2 beams are fired from the left side of the tower. In normal, they can be dodged, but not in Savage, where they at least hit 2 players. I'd be inclined to admit that we're straying quite far away from the 6th episode at this point. The machine part of the 2nd tier had Magitek Laser that only hit one target once again. Well, that wouldn't be the first time Square Enix took some liberties with the source material. Shockwave, however, stays a little bit more on track. Used by the long arm, it was just a one-target physical attack remade into a red-white AoE that pushes you away. The only difference with the Guardian is that it explodes from an orb out of the arena that can randomly switch from west to east once before going off. Inexorable Will creates AoEs under 4 random players. It might be echoing the Magnitude 8 spell used by the first tier's Visage part back in the 6th. Spirit Wave pushes 2 players quite far away from the tower. I think it comes from what Kefka did before the final encounter. During the cutscene, he grabbed 2 characters by the power of his mind alone and threw them away from him. I'm okay with that idea, yes. Indomitable Will is a small AoE to share but with only one other player because of the magic vulnerability debuff. Pay close attention to the visual effects. Those are actually lightning bolts falling on the player, so I guess it's referencing the bolts used by Kefka to kill Gastal after gaining control over the Warring Triad. I'll let you decide. Let's proceed now to the tower's second tier. By looking at the AoE in Temperate Will, it might be taken from the Quake spell used by the first tier in FF6. Or it's about Kefka wrecking the world by splitting some places in 2. Gravitational Wave may be taken from the Graviga spell cast by the magic part of the second tier, even though the damages in the 14th aren't percentage based anymore. Back to Savage with Gravitas, another AoE to share with only one other teammate, that leaves a small temporary AoE at the impact point. We need to take a look at the machine part in the 6th to find Gravity Bomb, which targeted one character to shave off half of their current HP. I'll keep Vitrifier for the next video, you'll see why, trust me on that. We finally arrive at the third tier and the last tower's abilities, starting with FF6. The Lady and Rest parts both had a one-target skill with the same name but really different effects. Repose. Lady's Repose will make you sleep, whereas Rest will kill you. This latter cast it every time it died. Instead of keeping them separated, Square Enix decided to mix them up when they reworked those into FF14's mechanics. Firstly, it's Rest that inflicts sleep on 4 players with Idyllic Will. Lady gives 2 debuffs and a buff to the 4 others with Indulgent Will, and this is where things get interesting. Confuse, so the players will attack the ones asleep, Heavy to reduce their running speed, and the buff giving the ability to one-shot with an auto attack. So we keep the ailments of sleep and instant kill, but with a way out. The confuse and heavy ailments don't come out of nowhere as well. The magic part of the second tier had the confuse spell, and Sloga to slow down the ATB gauge filling speed. Yeah, that's the closest thing to heavy I could find. We're done here with Kefka and his Divine Tower. Yes, I know what I said. Prenez soin de vous et amusez-vous bien.